Hey, so I recently spent some time in Bangalore, not just visiting the city, but sitting down with founders, long conversations, honest questions, real answers. I thought I would record podcasts, but the discussion became more engaging and I ended up just listening and asking questions. So some of the things that I asked them, like, what does your journey look like? Is working at startup worth it? Why entrepreneurship over corporate? Did you do internship before starting? How does fundraising actually work, like pre-seed, seed, pitching? Why Bangalore? Do you really need an office? What's the real scope? Money, growth, learning? And what surprised me the most was that every journey was different, but the patterns were the same. Patterns I noticed across the founders were number one, clarity, conviction, and obsession. Every founder was extremely clear about what they were building, not confused, not casual, deep conviction. And talking on the question, जिसमें like मेरा भी काफी ज़्यादा doubt था. So like I used to think if you join a startup, you will eventually have to leave and start your own thing. But founders corrected me. You can grow significantly inside startups too. Someone joining as a growth intern moves up, builds real wealth, reputation, and which compounds over time. So it's not true that if you work in a startup, you will get stuck in a horizontal layer compared to corporate. In fact, if you work hard and choose the right startup, growth can be better than corporate too. So, yes, it depends on the person, not just the path. Also, not everyone, but many had explored through internships before committing fully. So it's not like doing internship is something low or unworthy. It depends. Now comes the another point, that is passion and problem. So there were two types of founders I met, one building from passion and other from a business point of view. So it is about the inner drive. Obviously, the passion driven path carries more risk, but again, all the articles and gyan can't cover over this in one video. So it depends on one's own judgment after evaluating everything. So I remember one of the founder was solving B2B problems like with depth. They also mentioned that they validated customers by pitching just the idea before the final product and then build the product alongside the feedback. Also, one thing common I noticed was many insisted for software startup, the US market is better to sell as compared to India. In fact, the two founders I met both have US as their primary market. Another thing was Paul Graham, one of the co-founder of YC, a reputed figure. So multiple founders recommended reading Paul Graham's essays. So two ideas that really stuck were the idea of personality tax. One of the founder recommended that. So and that if it's like if getting rich is your only goal, startups are not the best path. Also, I had this doubt that shall I do a startup? What idea shall I come up with? So there was one of the founder I was discussing with, and he gave me this essay on ideas. So there were a lot of key takeaways, and the most important one was notice ideas rather than forcing to think them up. Right. So I highly recommend reading this article if anyone is interested in. Also, then I was just exploring more essays because I really enjoyed reading the first one. So there is this wealth article also. This is also like highly recommended. Yeah, hard work would be there with uncertainty too, but you need to be optimistic and realistic. Fail and learn. Like all the gyan, 10 to 12 hours of focused work is normal. Then in overall my Bangalore experience beyond like founders, I explored the city. Something interesting, Bangalore isn't just about companies, it is infrastructure for ambition. Like one of the founder I met had previously lived in Pune and had recently shifted to Bangalore. He said that city has more energy and a stronger startup environment compared to Pune. So for the tech startup ecosystem, Bangalore currently makes more sense. By the way, another founder also said like Bangalore is not uniformly developed and that only certain areas like Indranagar, etc. function well. So yeah, different perspectives. And on the office and apartment side, I stayed in HSR. And many early stage startups usually rent offices here. The structure is like there is one building and there are multiple floors, and then offices. Each floor consists of the office, and the rent could be around 1 to 2 lakhs per month, right? And if the startup grows, then they shift to other location also. So yeah, but currently, but yeah, I guess most of the early stage startups go in the HSR layout area. Also, there was one thing like a cafe culture where people can sit and work for hours. That was also something interesting. So the first impression, it feels like the city is structured for people who are building things. And on the investment ecosystem, many founders, like I asked, because like building is fine, like what about investment money, right? So many founders got their first exposure through Antler, right? Entrepreneur First, South Park community. So these are cohorts where you meet other builders, right? Co-founders. There is mentorship program. I will add links for these cohorts. Also, I have one doubt, like, shall I have experience in doing internship first, or shall I build my own startup? Again, if you are building your own startup, you need an idea, and for that idea, you again go to that article. So yeah, mix and match. But the crux is, I asked that question. So one thing very important, one of the founders said was ki, uh, in what particular area you need experience, right? If you need experience in the technology building stuff, go for internships. And if you need the experience in the whole founding game, how it works, so these cohorts like EF, like Entrepreneur First, can be a very good quick start, which will give you global exposure also, right? So again, it depends. Doesn't mean if you are doing internship you can't get crux of that world. Again, it depends on the individual. Maybe you do an internship, you are close to the founder, and you sit with them, and you learn. So again, it depends. There is no fixed answer to it. Networking is what something is very important. So like one of the found on this investment part only, so one of the founder got invested from Antler, right? And how he got funding via Antler, because one of his person who was in touch was working in Antler. So it was a network game. They met and they decided to start something together, and because the other person already had experience in Antler, so they got funding like relatively easier, like someone knowing someone until you reach where you're trying to achieve. So yeah, networking is also something important. Uh, Now comes the question, like, do we really need to travel to Bangalore? Honestly, probably not. Some people who've already lived in the city, I talked to them. They were like kind of bored. So like everything feels normal after sometimes. But in my view, if the ecosystem offers what we are looking for, it is not necessary, but it is still good experience, at least once. So right. And also one of the stories that I remember was there was one of the founder who had a company which was doing fairly well, but then the founder realizes that this couldn't scale big enough, right? And the saturation is approaching. So what they did was they used the same sub funding and shifted it to a new company. Obviously there must have been discussion with the investor, but what stood out was that they were practical and focused on outcomes. If something is not going to be big enough, so they pivoted, right? Rather than being stuck on that, we need to grow this one only. So yeah, they are like open minded too. Also, I think they also care about vision, like money also. But from what I observed, vision and commitment seemed stronger than money. This doesn't mean that they're not money minded, but comparatively, vision and drive appeared more dominant. At the end, I would say, like, I went looking for insights and came back with some clarity. This was my experience. I will keep sharing what I learned on Madmi Code, so do subscribe.